Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Foundation of Trust. Travis Webster had built his empire from nothing. At 45, he owned 3 successful construction companies across the state, employed over 200 people, and commanded respect in every room he entered. His calloused hands told the story of a man who had swung hammers alongside his crews before becoming the man who signed their paychecks. But beneath his success lay a fortress of principles. Loyalty was sacred, betrayal was unforgivable. He met Miranda Garner 22 years ago at a charity gala. She was 23, radiant in her emerald dress, working as an event coordinator for the city's elite. Her laugh had a musical quality that drew him like a moth to flame. Travis, then a struggling contractor with dirt under his fingernails and dreams bigger than his bank account, felt like the luckiest man alive when she said yes to dinner. Their courtship was a whirlwind. Miranda was everything Travis thought he wanted: sophisticated, beautiful, connected to the right people. She helped him navigate social circles he'd never dreamed of entering. When he proposed after 18 months, she said yes with tears in her eyes that he believed were genuine. Their daughter Sophia arrived 3 years later, a perfect blend of Travis's determination and Miranda's grace. At 21 now, Sophia had inherited her father's steel spine and her mother's intuitive intelligence. She was completing her business degree, already showing interest in joining the family company. But perfection, Travis would learn, was often a carefully constructed illusion. The first crack appeared 5 years ago when Miranda began working as a consultant for various nonprofits. She traveled frequently, attended evening galas, and seemed energized by her work in ways she hadn't been in years. Travis admired her passion, even when it meant more dinners alone with Sophia. "Dad, don't you think Mom's been different lately?" Sophia had asked him last Christmas, her voice careful. "Different how?" Travis had replied, though he'd noticed it too. The way Miranda's phone was always face down, how she startled when he entered rooms unexpectedly, the new designer clothes that appeared in her closet. Just distant, like she's thinking about something else all the time. Travis had dismissed his daughter's concerns, told himself Miranda was simply finding her own path after years of supporting his dreams. He was wrong. The call came on a rainy Tuesday in March. Detective Frank Herrera's voice was professionally gentle. "Mr. Webster, there's been an accident. Your wife's vehicle went off Riverside Bridge during the storm last night." The world tilted. Travis gripped his office desk, the mahogany surface suddenly the only solid thing in his universe. "Is she?" "We recovered her purse and identification from the scene. The current was strong last night. We're still searching, but they never found Miranda's body." The funeral was arranged with an empty casket, a ceremony for closure that felt anything but final. Travis moved through the preparations like a man underwater, accepting condolences from people who spoke in hushed tones about tragic accidents and how young she was. Sophia had been his anchor through those dark days, handling details he couldn't focus on, making decisions when his mind refused to function, which made her sudden refusal to attend the funeral all the more bewildering. Chapter 2. The Daughter's Warning. "I'm not going, Dad." Sophia's voice was steady, but Travis caught the tremor underneath. They stood in the kitchen of the Webster family home, a sprawling colonial that Travis had built himself 15 years ago. Every beam, every fixture, every carefully selected tile had been chosen with love for the family he thought he was building. Now it felt like a mausoleum. "Sophia, I know this is hard, but your mother deserves—" "No." The word cut through the air like a blade. Sophia's green eyes, so much like Miranda's, held something Travis had never seen before. Not grief, not sadness, something darker. "I won't be there, and neither should you." Travis set down his coffee cup, studying his daughter's face. She wore a black dress appropriate for mourning, but her expression was all wrong. There was no sorrow, no loss. Instead, there was a cold fury that reminded him uncomfortably of himself. "What aren't you telling me?" His voice carried the authority that made construction foremen snap to attention. Sophia looked away, her jaw tight. Just stay home. Trust me on this. Trust you? My wife is dead, Sophia. Whatever issues you had with your mother, this isn't the time. She's not worth your tears. The words hung between them like a physical presence. Travis felt something crack inside his chest. That's enough. I don't know what's gotten into you, but I won't have you speak about your mother like that. Not today. Sophia's laugh was bitter, a sound that belonged on someone much older. You still don't see it, do you? Even now, you're still protecting her. Protecting her from what? But Sophia was already moving toward the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood Travis had installed when she was 6 years old. She paused in the doorway, not turning around. Don't go to the funeral, Dad. If you love yourself at all, stay here. And if someone comes to the door, her voice dropped to almost a whisper. Don't open it. Look through the peephole first. She left him standing in the kitchen, surrounded by 22 years of memories that suddenly felt like lies. The funeral was scheduled for 2 o'clock. At 1:30, Travis sat in his study, staring at the wall of awards and photographs that documented his rise from nothing to everything. Pictures of groundbreaking ceremonies, ribbon cuttings, family vacations that seemed like scenes from someone else's life. His phone buzzed constantly. Colleagues, friends, business associates offering condolences he couldn't bear to acknowledge. The funeral home had called twice to confirm details. Father Alexander from St. Mary's had left a voicemail about the service. Travis made his decision at 1:45. He would honor his wife's memory, regardless of whatever strange mood had possessed his daughter. He pulled on his black suit, the one Miranda had helped him choose for their 10th anniversary dinner. He was reaching for his keys when the doorbell rang. Chapter 3. The moment everything changed. The sound froze Travis mid-step. Through the front windows, he could see cars still parked in neighbors' driveways, children playing in yards, the world continuing its normal rhythm while his had stopped entirely. The funeral would be starting in 10 minutes. Who would come to his door now? Sophia's words echoed in his mind. Look through the peephole first. Travis approached the front door with the caution of a man who'd spent years on construction sites, always alert for danger. The peephole was a small circle of distorted glass, but what he saw through it made his blood turn to ice. Miranda stood on his porch. Not a ghost, not a hallucination brought on by grief. His wife, very much alive, wearing the blue sundress he'd bought her for their anniversary last year. Her hair was shorter, styled differently, but it was unmistakably her. She was checking her phone, glancing around nervously, very much the behavior of a living, breathing woman. Behind her, partially hidden by the porch column, stood Kyle Casey. Travis knew Kyle from the country club, a smooth-talking financial advisor who'd made a fortune managing money for wealthy widows and divorced socialites. He was younger than Travis by almost 10 years, with the kind of easy charm that made people trust him with their secrets and their bank accounts. Travis's hands shook as he watched his dead wife check her watch and whisper something to her lover. Kyle nodded and pulled out a set of keys that looked remarkably similar to the spare set to Travis's house. The pieces fell together with devastating clarity. The accident that left no body. The closed casket funeral happening right now across town. The insurance policies Miranda had insisted on updating 6 months ago. The gradual distance, the late nights, the unexplained expenses. His wife had faked her own death to run away with her lover, probably waiting until the funeral to retrieve something from the house. Documents, valuables, evidence they couldn't leave behind. Travis backed away from the door, his mind racing. They didn't know he was home. They thought he was across town, grieving at a funeral for a woman who was standing on his porch planning to rob him. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated Sophia. His daughter had known. Somehow, she discovered the truth and tried to protect him from the devastating revelation. The coldness in her eyes, the refusal to attend the funeral, the warning about the door, it all made sense now. Travis Webster had built his fortune on the principle that a man's worth was measured by his word, his loyalty, his ability to stand by his commitments. He believed in the sanctity of marriage, the bond of family, the trust between partners who'd sworn to love each other until death. Miranda and Kyle had just shown him how naive that belief made him. But they'd also made a fatal error in judgment. They thought Travis Webster was just another successful businessman who could be fooled, manipulated, and discarded when he was no longer useful. They were about to learn otherwise. Travis moved away from the door and pulled out his phone. Not to call the police. That would be too simple, too clean. No, this betrayal demanded something more personal, more fitting to the crime. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he wanted. Martin Pruitt answered on the second ring. "Martin, it's Travis. I need you to do something for me, and I need it done quietly." Martin had served 2 tours in Afghanistan before coming to work for Webster Construction as head of security. He was loyal, discreet, and had skills that went well beyond checking IDs at job sites. "Whatever you need, boss. I need surveillance on 2 people. Complete background checks, financial records, travel history, everything." And Travis's voice carried a chill that would have made his business rivals nervous. "I need them watched without them knowing it. Can you handle that? Consider it done." "Who are we looking at?" Travis watched through the peephole as Miranda grew impatient, motioning for Kyle to try the keys. His wife, his supposedly dead wife, was breaking into his house while her lover acted as lookout. "Kyle Casey and—" Travis paused, the words sticking in his throat like broken glass. Miranda Webster. Chapter 4. The Gathering Storm. 3 days after the funeral that never should have happened, Travis sat in his study reviewing Martin Pruitt's preliminary report. The documents spread across his desk painted a picture that made his earlier discoveries seem like minor infractions. Miranda and Kyle had been planning this for over a year. Bank statements showed regular transfers to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Kyle had purchased a small villa in Costa Rica under a shell company. Most damning of all, Miranda had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on herself 8 months ago, with Travis as the beneficiary. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Fake her death, let Travis collect the insurance money. Then Kyle would gradually move the funds offshore through his financial network while Miranda waited in Costa Rica for the heat to die down. Eventually, Travis would be framed for insurance fraud, leaving them free to enjoy their new life with his money. They'd been staying at the Riverside Hotel downtown, Martin reported, settling into the leather chair across from Travis's desk. Separate rooms, but Kyle visits hers every night. They think they're being careful. Travis's jaw tightened. What else? Casey's been liquidating assets for months. Sold his downtown condo, cashed out his retirement accounts, even put his mother in a state facility to free up her house for sale. He's burning bridges like a man who never plans to come back. And Miranda? Martin's expression darkened. She cleaned out your joint savings account 2 weeks before the accident. Transferred it to Casey's business account. Then he moved it offshore. Between that and the insurance scam, they're looking at stealing nearly $4 million. Travis stood and walked to the window overlooking the garden Miranda had insisted on planting 3 years ago. She'd spent weekends on her knees in the dirt, talking about how important it was to nurture things that would grow and flourish. Another lie, apparently. Boss, there's something else. Martin's voice was careful. About your daughter. Travis turned back, his attention sharpening. What about Sophia? She's the one who uncovered this. Been investigating her mother for months. That's how she knew to warn you. The revelation hit Travis like a physical blow. His 21-year-old daughter had been carrying this knowledge alone, watching her father love and mourn a woman who was betraying them both. How long has she known? Near as I can tell, she started getting suspicious around Christmas. Found some inconsistencies in her mother's stories, did some digging. Smart girl, she documented everything. Travis felt a surge of pride mixed with heartbreak. Sophia had inherited his instincts for truth and his refusal to accept comfortable lies. But she'd also been forced to grow up in ways no child should have to. I want to see her, Travis said. Tonight. An hour later, Sophia sat across from him in the same chair Martin had occupied. She looked older than her 21 years, as if the weight of her knowledge had aged her prematurely. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner, she said quietly. I kept hoping I was wrong. Why didn't you come to me when you first suspected? Sophia's smile was sad. Because you loved her. Really loved her. I've watched you two together my whole life, and I knew that finding out the truth would destroy something in you that could never be repaired. Travis reached across and took his daughter's hand. Her fingers were steady, strong, worker's hands like his own. You protected me as long as you could, he said. But now I need you to help me end this. What are you going to do? Travis's smile was cold enough to frost windows. I'm going to give your mother and her boyfriend exactly what they deserve. But first, I need to know everything you discovered. Every detail, every piece of evidence, every lie they told. Sophia opened her laptop and began pulling up files. It started when I noticed Mom was getting mail at a P.O. box she thought you didn't know about. I followed her one day and saw her meet Kyle at a coffee shop. The way they were together wasn't professional. For the next 2 hours, Travis listened as his daughter methodically destroyed every illusion he'd held about his marriage. Miranda's nonprofit consulting was a cover for money laundering through Kyle's financial services company. Her frequent travel was actually time spent setting up their escape route. Even their intimate moments had been calculated. Miranda timing their affection to correspond with major business decisions she could influence. She was selling information about your construction projects to competing bidders, Sophia explained, showing him email records she'd somehow accessed. Casey's been shorting stocks of companies you had contracts with, then profiting when your bids came in lower than expected. Travis felt something fundamental shift inside him. The man who'd grieved for his wife, who'd planned to honor her memory, died in that moment. What emerged was something colder, more focused, infinitely more dangerous. They made one mistake, he said, his voice carrying the finality of a judge passing sentence. What's that? They assumed I was just another Mark. Another successful fool who could be manipulated and discarded. Travis stood, moving to his safe and withdrawing several thick folders. But I didn't build this empire by being naive. I survived and thrived because I'm very good at destroying people who threaten what's mine. He handed Sophia one of the folders. Kyle Casey has been embezzling from his clients for years. Small amounts, nothing they'd notice immediately. He's been using your mother's connections to identify wealthy widows and divorcees, then slowly draining their accounts. How did you? I've been investigating him since Martin told me his name. Casey's good, but he's not perfect. He left a trail, and I found it. Travis's smile was predatory. Tomorrow, I'm going to start calling his victims. Once they realize what he's done, the authorities will have no choice but to act. What about Mom? Travis opened the second folder, revealing photographs, financial records, and legal documents. Your mother thinks she's dead. Legally, she is dead. If she tries to resurface, she'll be charged with insurance fraud, theft, and conspiracy. But if she tries to stay hidden, he shrugged. Dead people don't have access to bank accounts, credit cards, or any form of legal identity. Sophia stared at the documents, understanding dawning in her eyes. You're going to trap them. I'm going to give them exactly what they asked for, Travis corrected. They wanted me destroyed and discarded. They wanted to steal everything I've built. They're about to learn what happens when you declare war on someone who has more resources, more patience, and absolutely nothing left to lose. Chapter 5. The Net Titans. The law offices of Moss, Tucker and Associates occupied an entire floor of downtown's most prestigious building. Travis had chosen them not for their marble lobby or mahogany conference rooms, but because Nick Tucker was known for his ruthless efficiency in corporate warfare. This is quite a situation, Travis, Nick said, reviewing the files spread across his conference table. Your wife legally died 3 days ago. If she surfaces now, she's committing multiple felonies. And if she doesn't surface, Nick's smile was sharp. Then she remains dead, and you're the grieving widower who inherited everything. Either way, she loses. Travis had spent the morning making phone calls that would destroy Kyle Casey's life piece by piece. Casey's clients were a carefully curated list of wealthy women who trusted him with their financial futures. What they didn't know was that Kyle had been slowly bleeding their accounts dry for years, covering his tracks with false statements and fabricated investment returns. The first call had gone to Maureen Sargent, a 70-year-old widow whose late husband had left her a substantial portfolio. Travis had presented himself as a concerned fellow businessman who'd noticed irregularities in Casey's methods. "Mrs. Sargent, I think you should have an independent audit of your accounts," he'd said, his voice carefully modulated to convey worry rather than accusation. Some things Kyle mentioned at the country club didn't add up. The call had lasted 20 minutes. By the end, Maureen was promising to contact her son-in-law, who happened to be a federal prosecutor. The second call, to Anna Kane, had been even more productive. Anna's husband had died in a construction accident 2 years ago, leaving her with a settlement that Kyle had promised to invest conservatively. When Travis mentioned specific discrepancies in her monthly statements, Anna's voice had turned deadly quiet. "Mr. Webster, are you saying Kyle has been stealing from me?" "I'm saying you should verify that your money is where he claims it is." By noon, Travis had made 7 similar calls. By evening, Kyle Casey would be facing a tsunami of angry clients demanding immediate account reconciliations. When the smoke cleared, the investigators would find evidence of embezzlement that would put Kyle away for decades. "What about Miranda?" Nick asked, pulling Travis back to the present. "She's trapped between 2 impossible choices," Travis replied. "If she reveals herself, she faces criminal charges and financial ruin. If she stays hidden, she has no legal identity and no access to money. The offshore accounts? Kyle's name only. Miranda was smart enough not to leave paper trails, which means she's completely dependent on him for access to the stolen funds." Nick leaned back in his leather chair, admiration flickering in his eyes. "You're forcing them to turn on each other." "I'm simply presenting them with the consequences of their choices," Travis corrected. "Kyle will realize soon enough that carrying a legally dead woman around Costa Rica is more liability than asset. Miranda will discover that trusting her financial future to a man about to be arrested for fraud was poor planning." Travis's phone buzzed with a text from Martin. Casey just got his 3rd angry call. "He's packing." "It's starting," Travis told Nick. "Kyle's about to run, which means Miranda has very little time to decide whether she's going with him or trying to disappear on her own. And you're prepared for either scenario?" Travis's smile could have frozen hellfire. "Nick, I've been preparing for this my entire life. I just didn't know it until 3 days ago." That evening, Travis sat in his study with Sophia, monitoring the situation through Martin's carefully placed surveillance. Kyle and Miranda were arguing in her hotel room, their voices raised enough to be picked up by the listening devices Martin had installed. "Can't stay here," Kyle was saying. "The clients are asking questions. Someone's been talking to them. Who would know enough to—" Miranda's voice stopped abruptly. Travis could imagine the realization dawning on her face. There was only one person with access to Kyle's client list and detailed knowledge of his methods. Her supposedly grieving husband. "He knows," Miranda whispered. "Travis knows we're alive." "That's impossible. The funeral was yesterday. He was there, crying over your empty casket." "No." Miranda's voice was stronger now, touched with panic. "No, he wasn't. I never saw him at the funeral. We assumed he was there, but what if? What if what? What if Sophia told him? She's been acting strange for months, asking weird questions about my travel schedule, my work. What if she figured it out?" Through the surveillance feed, Travis watched Kyle pace the hotel room like a caged animal. Miranda sat on the bed, her face pale as she worked through the implications. "If he knows, then he's been planning this," she said slowly. "Travis doesn't just react to things. He plans. He prepares. Her voice trailed off as understanding hit her. "Oh God, the client's calling you. That's not coincidence." Kyle stopped pacing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we're not running from an angry husband. We're running from Travis Webster, and that means we're already caught." Travis felt a cold satisfaction as he watched his wife, his legally dead wife, finally understand the scope of her situation. She knew him well enough to recognize his methods, even if she'd been foolish enough to underestimate his resolve. "Dad," Sophia said quietly, "they're going to run tonight." "Let them," Travis replied. "Running won't save them. It will only make their eventual capture more inevitable." His phone rang. Nick Tucker's voice was crisp with barely contained excitement. "Travis, the FBI is opening an investigation into Casey's financial services company. 3 of his clients filed complaints today, and the preliminary evidence suggests systematic fraud going back at least 5 years. When will they move? Tomorrow morning. They'll freeze his accounts and issue warrants for his arrest if he tries to leave the country. Nick paused dramatically. Well, let's just say Costa Rica is lovely this time of year, but their extradition treaties are quite comprehensive. Travis ended the call and looked at his daughter. Sophia was watching him with something that might have been concern. Are you okay with this? He asked. What we're doing to your mother? Sophia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the same steel that had built the Webster Empire. She made her choices, Dad. She chose money over family. She chose lies over truth. She chose to destroy the man who loved her more than his own life. Sophia met his eyes. I'm not okay with what she did. What we're doing to her. That's just justice. Chapter 6. The Trap Springs. At 6:47 a.m., Kyle Casey was arrested in the lobby of the Riverside Hotel. FBI agents had been waiting since dawn, armed with warrants for his arrest and seizure orders for all his financial accounts. Travis watched from his car across the street as Kyle was led away in handcuffs, his careful composure finally cracking under the weight of inevitability. Miranda had already fled. Martin's surveillance showed her leaving through the hotel service entrance at 3 a.m., carrying a single suitcase and looking over her shoulder like a hunted animal. She was smart enough to know that staying near Kyle was suicide, but not smart enough to realize that running alone was worse. Where could she go? Sophia asked as they watched the FBI team secure Kyle's hotel room. Nowhere, Travis replied simply. Miranda Webster is dead. She has no identification, no credit cards, no legal existence. The woman running from that hotel is a ghost who can't access banks, can't rent apartments, can't even check into hotels without leaving a trail. His phone buzzed with an update from Nick Tucker. All offshore accounts frozen. Casey's cooperating, giving up information about the money laundering network. Says he was coerced by Miranda. Travis almost smiled. Kyle was doing exactly what he'd expected, throwing his co-conspirator under the bus to save himself. Not that it would matter. The evidence Travis had helped compile would put Kyle away regardless of his cooperation. What about the insurance money? Sophia asked. Still processing. The insurance company has to complete their investigation before releasing funds. But since there's a death certificate and no reason to suspect fraud, Travis shrugged. I should receive the payout within 30 days. The irony wasn't lost on him. Miranda's plan to steal his money through insurance fraud would end up providing him with the resources to hunt her down wherever she tried to hide. They drove home in comfortable silence, past the construction sites where Travis's crews were already at work. Life continued its normal rhythm for everyone except the 3 people whose world had imploded. Kyle was facing decades in federal prison. Miranda was discovering what it meant to be truly powerless. And Travis was just getting started. Back in his study, he reviewed the morning's intelligence reports. Miranda had withdrawn $5,000 from an ATM using Kyle's bank card before the accounts were frozen. She'd purchased a used car from a private seller, paying cash and using fake identification Kyle had arranged months ago. She was driving north, probably heading for Canada, where Kyle had mentioned having connections. She's trying to disappear completely, Martin observed, studying the tracking data. Smart move, actually, if she can get out of the country and establish a new identity. She won't make it, Travis said with certainty. Miranda thinks like a privileged woman who's never had to truly survive. She'll make mistakes. He was right. The first mistake came 6 hours later when Miranda used Kyle's credit card at a gas station in upstate New York. The card had been flagged by the FBI, triggering an immediate alert. By evening, law enforcement agencies across 3 states had been notified to watch for her. The second mistake was predictable. She called Kyle's lawyer. Stan Fuller had been Kyle's attorney for years, handling his business formations and real estate transactions. What he hadn't known was that Kyle's businesses were fronts for money laundering and fraud. When Miranda called requesting emergency legal help, Fuller made the mistake of agreeing to meet her. She's desperate, Martin reported. Thinks the lawyer can help her access the offshore money or negotiate some kind of deal with the feds. Fuller doesn't know about the criminal investigation yet, Travis mused. He probably thinks this is just a messy divorce situation. Want me to enlighten him? No. Let Miranda dig her grave a little deeper first. The meeting was scheduled for the next morning at a truck stop outside Albany. Miranda probably thought she was being clever, choosing a public place where she'd blend into the crowd of travelers. What she didn't realize was that truck stops had excellent security camera coverage and that Travis had friends in many industries, including shipping and transportation. By the time Miranda arrived at the meeting, Travis already knew she was driving a blue Honda Civic with New York plates, had stopped at 3 different locations overnight, and was carrying approximately $4,000 in cash. Her fake ID was good quality, but not perfect, and she was starting to show the strain of living like a fugitive. Fuller's going to be in for quite a surprise, Sophia commented as they watched the tracking data update in real time. Miranda's about to learn that Kyle kept secrets from everyone, Travis replied, including the extent of his criminal activities and the fact that all their escape funds are now evidence in a federal investigation. The meeting lasted less than 20 minutes. Security cameras captured Miranda's face clearly as she argued with Fuller in the parking lot. When she realized that Kyle had lied about their financial safety net, that there was no accessible money and no way to negotiate with authorities, her careful composure finally shattered. She was completely alone, legally dead, and effectively powerless. Now what? Sophia asked. Travis stood and walked to his safe, withdrawing a folder he'd prepared for this moment. Inside were documents that would ensure Miranda's story ended exactly as she deserved. Now, he said, I give your mother one final choice. The kind of choice she gave me when she decided to destroy our family. Chapter 7. The Final Gambit. The letter arrived at Miranda's last known location through channels that couldn't be traced back to Travis. Inside the plain envelope was a single sheet of paper with a message that would determine whether Miranda Webster died a second time or lived to face the consequences of her betrayal. Miranda, by now you understand your situation. Kyle is in federal custody. The money is gone. Your legal identity is dead. You have perhaps 48 hours before law enforcement finds you. I'm offering you one choice. Meet me tomorrow at midnight at Riverside Bridge, where your death began. Come alone. Bring whatever evidence you have of our marriage, photos, documents, anything that proves who you used to be. If you come, I'll give you enough money to disappear forever and a new identity that will keep you safe from prosecution. If you don't come, I'll make sure the FBI knows exactly where to find you. You have until midnight to decide whether you want to live as someone else or die as Miranda Webster. Your husband. Travis had spent hours crafting the message, balancing truth with manipulation. Miranda would recognize his writing style, his direct approach to problem solving. She'd also recognize the implicit threat and the fact that he somehow knew exactly how desperate her situation had become. Will she come? Sophia asked as they reviewed the plan one final time. She'll come, Travis said with certainty. Miranda's survival instinct is strong, and I'm offering her the only way out of an impossible situation. She'll convince herself that she can manipulate me one more time. The next evening, Travis drove to Riverside Bridge alone. The span stretched across the dark water where Miranda had supposedly died, where her car had been found and her death certificate had been issued. It was fitting that her real fate would be decided in the same place. Martin was positioned with surveillance equipment a quarter-mile away, recording everything for insurance purposes. Sophia was at home, monitoring police scanners to ensure they weren't walking into a trap. Travis had learned never to underestimate desperate people, even when they were completely outmatched. At 11:47 p.m., headlights appeared on the access road. Miranda's stolen Honda approached slowly, as if she was having second thoughts about the meeting. Travis remained calm, standing by his truck with the confidence of a man who held all the cards. Miranda emerged from her car, looking nothing like the sophisticated woman who'd left for a charity gala 3 weeks ago. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her face showing the strain of living in constant fear. She carried a small bag that presumably contained the evidence Travis had requested. Hello, Miranda, he said as she approached. You look terrible. She stopped 10 feet away, close enough to talk, but far enough to run if necessary. Travis, I can explain everything. I'm sure you can. You always were good with explanations. His voice was conversational, almost friendly. Tell me, how does it feel to be dead? Miranda's composure cracked slightly. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. The plan was to steal my money and frame me for insurance fraud while you lived happily ever after with Kyle. Travis interrupted. I know about the plan, Miranda. I know about all of it. Then why offer to help me? Travis smiled, and Miranda took an involuntary step backward. She'd seen that smile before, usually just before he destroyed a business competitor or dissolved a partnership that no longer served his interests. Because I want you to understand exactly what you've lost, he said. 22 years of marriage, a daughter who loved you, a husband who would have given you anything you asked for. You threw it all away for a mediocre con man who sold you out the moment he was arrested. Kyle didn't. Kyle gave the FBI everything. Bank records, communication logs, your real identities in Costa Rica, even recordings of conversations where you planned my destruction. Travis pulled out his phone and played a short audio clip. Miranda's voice came through the speaker. Once Travis is charged with fraud, he'll lose everything. The company, the house, probably even Sophia's trust. We'll have the insurance money and whatever's left after the legal fees destroy him. Miranda went white as she listened to her own words condemning her. Where did you get that? Kyle recorded your conversations as insurance against exactly this situation. Smart man, really. Smarter than you. Certainly. The truth hit Miranda like a physical blow. Kyle had never trusted her completely. He documented their criminal conspiracy to protect himself, which meant Travis had evidence that would destroy her even if she managed to escape. What do you want? She whispered. Travis reached into his truck and withdrew a briefcase. I want you to understand the difference between justice and mercy. Justice would be turning you over to the FBI right now. Mercy is giving you an alternative. He opened the briefcase, revealing neat stacks of cash and a passport with Miranda's photograph but a different name. $50,000 and a clean identity, he said. Enough to disappear forever and start over somewhere the law will never find you. Miranda stared at the money, hope flickering in her eyes for the first time since her arrest warrant had been issued. What's the catch? No catch. Just a condition. Travis's smile widened. You have to earn it. Ow! Travis reached into his truck again and withdrew a shovel. By finishing what you started. You want to be dead, Miranda. I'm going to help you achieve that goal. The color drained from Miranda's face as she understood his meaning. You're insane. I'm practical. You see, Miranda Webster really did die 3 weeks ago. The insurance company paid out. The death certificate is filed. The grave marker is already ordered. The only loose end is the woman standing in front of me who happens to share her name. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You dig your own grave, right here where your death began, and I'll make sure Miranda Webster stays dead forever. The woman who crawls out of that hole will be someone else entirely. Someone with enough money to disappear and no connection to the Webster family. Miranda looked at the shovel, then at the money, then at her husband's face. What she saw there was something she'd never encountered before. Absolute, implacable determination. And if I refuse, then you can explain to the FBI how you faked your death and stole $4 million. I'm sure they'll be very understanding about your circumstances. Miranda stood frozen, trapped between impossible choices. Take the money and symbolically bury her old life, or face decades in federal prison for crimes that would destroy any hope of freedom. Travis waited patiently. He had all the time in the world. Chapter 8, The Burial. Miranda took the shovel with shaking hands. The ground near Riverside Bridge was soft from recent rain, but digging a grave, even a symbolic one, was harder work than she'd expected. Travis watched from his truck, occasionally offering helpful suggestions about depth and width while she struggled with the unfamiliar labor. Deeper, he said when she paused to rest. A proper grave should be at least 6 feet. You wouldn't want anyone to accidentally disturb Miranda's final resting place. This is insane, Miranda gasped, wiping sweat from her forehead. When people find out, who's going to find out? You're dead, remember? Dead people don't file complaints with the authorities. It took her 3 hours to dig a hole that met Travis's standards. By the time she finished, her manicured hands were blistered and bleeding, her designer clothes were ruined, and her face was streaked with dirt and tears. "Perfect," Travis said, inspecting her work. Now the hard part. He retrieved a small wooden box from his truck, the kind used for cremated remains. Inside were the last traces of Miranda Webster's legal existence: her driver's license, social security card, wedding ring, and copies of official documents that proved she'd ever lived. "Put them in," he instructed. Miranda stared at the contents, understanding that this was her point of no return. Once these documents went into the ground, Miranda Webster would be truly dead. There would be no way back to her old life, no possibility of reclaiming her identity. "The ring, too," Travis said softly. "You won't be needing it anymore." With shaking fingers, Miranda removed her wedding ring. The ring Travis had placed on her finger 21 years ago, promising to love and cherish her until death parted them. She placed it in the box with everything else that had once defined her existence. "Now bury it." The symbolism wasn't lost on either of them. Miranda was literally burying her old self, erasing every trace of the woman who'd been Travis Webster's wife. When she finished covering the box with dirt, that woman would be truly dead. It took another hour to fill the hole. Travis helped at the end, adding his own efforts to ensure the burial was complete. When they finished, nothing remained to mark the spot except slightly disturbed earth that would look natural within days. "Congratulations," Travis said, handing her the briefcase with the money and fake passport. "Miranda Webster is dead. Maria Santos is free to go anywhere she chooses." The new identity was perfect: birth certificate, social security number, driver's license, even a credit history stretching back 5 years. Travis had used the same networks that Kyle had accessed, but with better execution and more thorough planning. "How did you? I told you once that I'm very good at destroying people who threaten what's mine," Travis replied. "I'm equally good at creating people when it serves my purposes." Miranda, now Maria, stared at the documents that represented her new life. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I want you to live with the consequences of your choices. Prison would be too easy, too final. This way, you get to spend the rest of your life knowing exactly what you traded away for nothing." "For nothing?" Travis's smile was cold as winter morning. "Kyle's going to prison for 25 years minimum. The offshore accounts are seized. Your house in Costa Rica was purchased with stolen money, so it'll be confiscated. You have $50,000 and a fake identity, which means you'll spend the rest of your life working minimum wage jobs and looking over your shoulder." The mathematics of her situation were brutal. $50,000 might last 2 years if she lived carefully. After that, she'd be completely dependent on whatever work she could find without references, without education credentials she could verify, without any of the connections that had defined her privileged life. "You get to discover what it's like to build a life from nothing," Travis continued. "Just like I did 25 years ago, except I had talent, determination, and integrity. You have greed, desperation, and a talent for self-deception." Maria Santos gathered her money and documents, understanding that she was now truly alone in a way she'd never experienced. No family, no friends, no safety net except what she could create for herself. "Goodbye, Maria," Travis said as she walked back to her car. "I hope your new life is everything you deserve." She drove away without looking back, disappearing into the darkness like the ghost she'd become. Travis stood by the unmarked grave for several minutes, saying a final goodbye to the woman he'd loved and mourned. Miranda Webster was truly dead now, buried along with 22 years of marriage and all the dreams they'd once shared. When he finally left Riverside Bridge, Travis felt something he hadn't experienced since childhood: the complete absence of emotional attachment to outcomes beyond his control. Miranda had made her choices. Kyle had made his. Sophia had proven herself worthy of trust and respect. Now Travis was free to focus on what he did best: building, creating, and protecting what mattered to him. Chapter 9. New Foundations. 6 months later, Travis stood in the conference room of Webster Construction's new headquarters, reviewing expansion plans with his management team. The insurance payout had provided capital for aggressive growth, allowing him to acquire two smaller competitors and bid on projects that would have been impossible before. The Portland development alone will employ 300 people for 2 years, Martin reported, his security expertise having evolved into broader business operations. We're looking at $40 million in revenue, with potential for follow-up contracts if we deliver on schedule. Sophia sat at Travis's right hand, her business degree finally complete and her role in the company formalized. She'd proven herself ruthless in negotiations and brilliant in strategic planning, traits that would serve the Webster family well for generations to come. "What about the Sacramento project?" she asked, reviewing the quarterly projections. "Finalized yesterday," Travis replied. "Groundbreaking starts next month." The business was thriving in ways that would have been impossible if Miranda's plan had succeeded. Instead of facing bankruptcy and criminal charges, Travis was expanding into new markets and establishing the foundation for a construction empire that would outlast him. His phone buzzed with a text from Nick Tucker. "Kyle Casey sentenced today. 25 years federal prison. No possibility of parole for 12 years. Justice served." Travis deleted the message without comment. Kyle Casey was no longer relevant to his life or his plans. The man had made his choices and was living with the consequences, just as everyone eventually did. "Dad!" Sophia's voice drew his attention back to the meeting. "The Memorial Scholarship applications are ready for review." The Miranda Webster Memorial Scholarship was Travis's masterpiece of irony. Funded with money from her life insurance policy, it provided financial assistance to young women from broken families who demonstrated exceptional academic achievement and moral character. The recipients were everything Miranda had pretended to be: honest, hardworking, deserving of investment and trust. "How many applicants this year?" 237. "We can fund 15 full scholarships and 20 partial grants." Travis felt satisfaction at the numbers. Miranda's death was financing opportunities for young women who would use them responsibly, who understood the value of education and the importance of integrity. It was a far better legacy than she would have created in life. The meeting concluded with discussions of new safety protocols and employee benefit improvements. Travis had learned that loyalty was earned through consistent actions, not demanded through authority. His crews were among the best paid in the industry, with comprehensive health care and retirement plans that ensured their family security. After the others left, Travis and Sophia remained in the conference room, reviewing personal matters that didn't require the entire management team's attention. "Any word about Maria Santos?" Sophia asked, her voice carefully neutral. Travis had kept minimal surveillance on his former wife, just enough to ensure she wasn't planning any comeback attempts. The reports were exactly what he'd expected: a woman struggling to survive in a world that demanded skills she'd never developed. "She's working in a restaurant in Oregon," he replied. "Third job in 4 months. Turns out that charm and manipulation don't translate well to honest work." "Do you ever regret it? Letting her live instead of turning her over to the FBI?" Travis considered the question seriously. "No, prison would have been too clean an ending. This way, she gets to experience real consequences for real choices. Every day she works for minimum wage. Every night she goes to sleep in a studio apartment wondering how she'll pay rent. She's living with the full weight of what she threw away." And Kyle made a different choice. "He thought he could take what belonged to me and face no consequences. He's spending the next 25 years learning otherwise." Sophia nodded, understanding the distinction. Her father didn't forgive betrayal, but he matched his response to the specific nature of each betrayal. Miranda had chosen to live a lie. Now she lived as someone else entirely. Kyle had chosen to steal and destroy. Now he faced total destruction himself. "What about us?" she asked. "What's next for the Webster family?" Travis smiled, the first genuinely warm expression he'd shown in months. "We build. We create jobs. We complete projects. We honor our commitments. We prove that integrity and competence are still worth something in this world. And if someone else tries to threaten what we've built, then they'll learn the same lesson your mother and Kyle learned. I don't start fights, Sophia, but I always finish them. They spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing construction schedules and financial projections, planning for a future that would be built on solid foundations of trust and mutual respect. The Webster empire would grow not through deception and manipulation, but through excellence and reliability. As evening approached, Travis walked through the construction site that would become their new regional headquarters. Workers were finishing the foundation work, creating the base upon which everything else would be built. It was honest work done by honest people who took pride in their craftsmanship. His phone rang as he watched the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize, but something about the timing made him answer. Travis Webster. Hello. The voice was shaky, uncertain. This is Maria Santos. I think we used to know each other. Travis felt no surprise, no emotional response at all. He'd been expecting this call for months. I'm sorry, he said politely. I don't know anyone by that name. You must have the wrong number. He ended the call and blocked the number. Miranda Webster was dead, buried at Riverside Bridge along with the naive man who'd once loved her. Maria Santos was a stranger who had nothing to do with his life or his family. Travis Webster had learned the most important lesson of his life.